Welcome to episode 4 of Shape Explorations. In this episode I'll be talking about how I created a dog, a bunny and a llama shaped rope basket. So in the last episode I gave you a brief glimpse of the dog shape that I was working on, so I'm just going to show you how I finished that one off. So I actually didn't change very much from when I showed it to you last time, but I didn't really talk you through how I made it. So with this shape, what I did is I created a very classic kind of upright basket shape in the stitched rope, and then when I created the handles, instead of encouraging the stitching to go upwards, I encouraged it to sort of fold back downwards to create these kind of cute floppy dog ears. So functionally speaking, they work perfectly fine as handles, but when they're not in use, they do just sit by the side of the dog. The only extra detail that I added was the tongue. So when it's sat down on a surface, you've just got this suggestion of a cute little tongue poking out. It's quite different from the cat that I made last week. If I just show you the difference in styles, partly I think because on the cat I used a sort of textural stitching to create ideas of stripes, and with the dog I've used just a block colour, but also this is made with a thin rope, and this I used a chunkier rope to create because I wanted to go for a little bit more height. So that was how those two pieces turned out. I'd also said that I was going to create a bunny, and I did manage to complete that one for this episode. So moving on from the dog, I made this one very much in the same style as the cat basket. So it's got textural stitching in different places around to kind of give an idea of little patches of fluff. And then I made the ears in a similar style, but obviously I needed to make them a bit longer to create bunny ears rather than cat ears. This was actually a bit of a challenge because I had a couple of goes, and the first time I kind of got the ears too close together and I managed to create like a slightly sinister looking bunny, which was the opposite of what I was going for. I was definitely going for cute. So yeah, I had to kind of unpick it all and try again. So I'm really happy with how they now look, and I chose to only go over the shape once, stitch around again, because I wanted to be able to have the option to kind of move the ears a little bit, so you could have them a little bit floppy or you could have them straight up. So that really gives you the option to kind of play with the ears and create different sort of almost expressions on the bunny. So this one it's just a very standard, rounded basket shape, and then I added the details afterwards in Baker's cotton twine, as I did with the cat basket. So just a couple of little eyes and a cute nose to finish it off. So I think together the cat and the bunny look really sweet, and you can see that the bunny basket actually came out quite a bit bigger than the cat, but that's absolutely fine. So yeah, so that was how the cat and the bunny turned out. And then I decided to go a little bit off-piste and create a llama basket. So creating a llama basket was a very different experience than attempting to create a bunny, a cat or a dog. I had to study the llama shape for quite a long time because although I know what llamas look like, I've never looked at them in terms of how I might sculpt that into rope form. So basically when I posted the animal baskets last week, I had such a lovely response from everybody, and I started getting requests for different shapes, and the llama was one of the first requests I got, so I thought I would give that a good go. So I had to approach this quite differently from the cat and the dog and the bunny. So I used the thick rope to make this one, the 8mm rope, and the way that I approached this was that I knew it was going to be a tall order to try and mimic the sort of the tall shape of the neck, and then to be able to come out to create the nose. I sort of did lots of sketches on it, and I thought it was going to be difficult to make it balance. I thought if I added some sculpture elements on, it's going to tip, and I always want my baskets to be functional, so I thought I needed to approach this in a way that I could suggest the shape of the neck and the nose without having to come out and create and start adding lots of sections on. I also really enjoy creating baskets from one piece of rope, one singular piece, rather than having lots of different sections attached to each other. I love the idea of actually in kind of like a rope way of being like a one-line drawing. So the way that I decided to approach this was to use stitching to create the suggestion of the shape of the neck and the head. So what I did is I actually used a different top thread to my bobbin thread. So the bobbin thread in rope work is what you see on the outside, because you start down here and then as you come round, that stitching that's underneath is what's going to end up here. And then the top stitch is going to be the inside thread. So what I did is I wanted to create lots of texture, because llamas have these beautiful fur with all kinds of different flecks of colour in them. A lot of them is what I discovered from my research this week. So it's really difficult to achieve that in kind of just using thread. So what I did is I loosened the tension very slightly on my sewing machine to allow it to essentially drag the top stitch through to the bottom stitch a little bit. So you will see if I hold it up really close that there's just kind of a suggestion of this colour coming through. It does look more effective in real life than on the camera, I will say. So down the bottom we've kind of got a very slight mauve coming through, and then I did it all natural here, and then at the top there is kind of like this, where you can see it in here, the gold colour. And then I sort of built up the shape that I wanted to create by doing layers of thread every other layer until I got up to the face, and then I did it on every single row because I didn't want to have to go much higher with the face than the body, so I wanted it to be in proportion as much as possible. So in order to create that shape, I then moved over to sort of every layer of rope that I was building on to doing the textural thread. So that was how I created the design element here, and then the next challenge was going to be to create the shape of the ears. So I knew right off the bat that creating llama ears was going to be a challenge, and I didn't want to approach it in the same way that I had done the other baskets. I didn't want to create a long shape and then be trying to figure out how to fill it in, so I decided to start with a smaller gap for the ears and to essentially create more structure by going over it a few times. So there was a bit of a balance, because I think if I had carried on stitching over it, eventually you would have just lost the shape. So I kind of got to 4 pieces of rope and felt that I had achieved what I was setting out to do. So what I like about this is that as I was stitching on the ears, I was encouraging the rope to shape upwards and then back over in kind of quite an exaggerated curve, but when it was all stitched together, it's come out with this kind of really nice kind of curved shape. So if I hold it on the side, you can see that it's almost got this kind of wave, which is what has created the shape. I think that if I made another basket of a llama, I would maybe approach it slightly differently, but I'm actually really pleased for a first attempt at how that turned out. So you've got this kind of suggestion of these taller ears, and then I did something completely different in terms of the face design. In terms of I actually stitched with some black rope the little rounds, and then kind of snipped in some eyelashes there, which is not something I've done on the previous ones. I just used this baker's twine thread to stitch in. So that was fun to do, because I also used some machine embroidery to create little eyes. So I kind of went for the Japanese kawaii style, just to see how it would turn out, and I'm really pleased with how it looks actually. But I definitely think it's kind of a fusion of different styles, this basket. And then I just did what I've been doing on the other baskets, which is to stitch over the basket with the shape. I love the llama's noses, which sounds a bit weird, but they all seem to have this almost like wide heart-shaped nose. So that was a really enjoyable part of this particular shape, was to sort of copy that and see how I could bring that to life in my own abstract way. So that is how the llama basket turned out. It definitely came out bigger than I was sort of anticipating, but it was really important to me that I wanted to build the shape and give that suggestion of the tallness of their lovely long necks. So that is my shape exploration of this episode. So I think I might be done with animal baskets for a little while, but I hope that you enjoyed exploring those shapes with me. If you have any ideas about how else you could create a llama, I'd love to hear them. And I will see you next time for another episode of Shape Exploration.